Welcome back to the Fit Project Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Micah, and in today's episode, we are taking a deep dive on motivation and why you are lacking motivation, and I want to help you bring your motivation back so that way you can continue on to consistently do the things that you want to do to get closer to your overall fitness goals. And today's workout feature, if you're watching on YouTube, is a leg workout from my current workout split. This is the leg day that I've been doing for the last 4 weeks, I believe. So if you're watching on YouTube, enjoy, save the workout, and the details of the workout will be in the description. So without further ado, let's cue the intro and get into the episode. All right. Welcome back, guys. This is week 2 on YouTube. And if you guys are returning to the Fit Project Podcast, I want to just say thank you. And if you are new here, thank you so much for tuning in. And hopefully you can get something from today's episode. And you know what? I hope that you feel motivated and you can find a way to bring back your motivation. This wasn't my original topic for today's episode, but a client of mine this morning asked me about motivation and if I had any advice for kind of re-sparking or rekindling, her desire to get back on track. And she just kind of didn't know where to go. And then that had me thinking what is my advice, right? Because I have told people time and time again that sometimes I'm not the best to ask for that because me and fitness, me and the gym have sort of a different relationship. I kind of see the gym as, an artist sees their painting or a gamer sees their controller and the screen. And to me, it's just, I love it. Whether I'm happy, sad, if I wake up and I'm tired, I know I'm going to do it. It's been a part of my life for 15 years. So I've never felt like I needed to be motivated. And I just want to say that the workout that you're seeing on the screen on YouTube is the one I just did. I'm recording this after doing that workout. And it's kind of ironic because today's workout was the worst workout that I felt like. It wasn't a bad workout. I just felt terrible energy-wise, and I just felt drained. And I don't remember a time in the last couple of years even. I don't even remember the last time that I felt like that. And I know why I felt like that because, of course, I've been dieting for, I think this is week 5 now. And it's starting to kick in. And I just kind of recently lowered my carbohydrate intake from my breakfast. And I didn't have time to eat my lunch before getting this workout in, so I didn't have much fuel, and I knew that was the main reason. And I had an energy drink, but I didn't drink it in time. I was drinking it sort of throughout the first bit of this workout, but it was kind of ironic because it made me feel like, all right, today I kind of feel like how a lot of people probably feel going into their workouts on a regular basis, and I started thinking like, why am I still here, right? Why am I still able to get this done? Even though like in my head, I'm, thinking of reasons of why I should do one less set or maybe take it easy today because I'm not energized. But my immediate response in my brain is to kind of squash those voices or just ignore those voices because I know, that's not necessarily what's going to produce the outcome that I want. And I know, I think more than a lot of people, that it's not even just about consistency when it comes to growth in the gym. It's a very long game, right? Like you have to show up every day, but not only do you have to show up every day, but you have to show up and work extremely hard. And the days that you don't, if you just show up and you don't put in your best effort, it's still almost like a day wasted because the more advanced you become, the more of a higher level that your body needs to, the consistency just really needs to be there in all aspects. And, it's not, it's always about the result of, 100 workouts versus like, what the next month is going to look like. I might not see anything change in the next month, but it really, 100 solid, great workouts really make the difference. So I always see that workout as an important puzzle piece to, being a part of those 100 workouts. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyway, I kind of have broken down my thoughts on motivation and what I feel like I can give you guys for advice on motivation, because guess what? I've worked with hundreds of clients, hundreds of people, and even the most successful of clients that I've worked with struggled at one point or another with motivation, which I'm going to talk about later on. That like even when you're doing super well, motivation's going to come and go, right? So I want to talk about where motivation comes from, and sort of not really on a scientific level. I just want to use sort of my experience and just sort of what I've noticed that and sort of the trends that my clients have had with when their motivation sparks and when it dips and all that stuff. But I want to talk about where it comes from. I want to talk about how do you increase your motivation, some ways to self-induce motivation. And then I want to talk about why your motivation goes away, even when you're progressing and you're working hard and doing all the right things. And then why are some people more constantly motivated than you? Like, why does everyone around you seem to not struggle with it as much as you? Because I know it sometimes can feel that way, especially with social media being such a dominant thing in our life, and we see the good side of everyone's life. Why are some people more motivated, right? So let's start with number one. The most important is, where does it come from, right? So from my point of view, and what I've noticed in clients, is the level of desire to achieve purpose, or you have a really meaningful reason for change, right? So some people have health related reasons that their doctor's like, all right, if you don't change your habits, you don't start exercising and eating better and lose this extra body fat, you don't have much time left. That is pretty powerful. That's a pretty good reason to get things done without motivation, right? Because, if you only work when you're motivated, you're probably going to fall you're going to be a victim to the unhealthy state that you're in, right? Motivation is going to kill you at that point. So you have to find your purpose, and it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. If it's important to you, then use that to your advantage. You have to make sure that whatever it is you're changing for, it's a good, solid reason. And I think a lot of people just, they want to look better, right? And I've done this before on different episodes where like, it's not against the law or against the rules to work out and lose body fat just because you want to be sexier. That's not against the rules, right? Because like some people will pretend that that's not the reason, even though it is. And what that does is that just plays around with your motivation, right? Because you're telling everybody, oh, I'm getting healthier, I'm doing all these things, or, you make up every reason besides the one that in your head is the reason why you're trying to change, right? And it's not against the law. If you just kind of dive in and say like, I want to be sexier, I want to look fit, I want to have abs, I want to be able to take my shirt off on the beach and be like, yo, look at this physique. If you just kind of really absorb that and say, okay, this is why I want to do it, you're most likely going to be able to take action more often because you're like in tune with why you want to do it. So the main thing is like, no matter what your reason is, even if it seems stupid or dumb to other people, you've got to let it be the thing. So that way you can, be as motivated as you possibly can be, right? So ask yourself, what's my true purpose? If I'm going to put all this work and effort in, why am I doing it? Why should I suffer? That makes it easier to work on the days where you're not motivated, right? So that's kind of where motivation comes from, is seeing yourself work towards the actual thing that you want, no matter if it's a legitimate health reason or if it's like vanity reasons or if it's just simply because someone challenged you or doubted you and you're just trying to prove them wrong. Whatever it is, use that full potential of of the drive behind that, right? So where does it come from? Meaningful change, meaning, purpose that is relevant to you, no matter what other people say, right? People will make fun of other people, I think, when you're just trying to get abs. But so what? If you get abs and they don't, haha, Anyway, now moving on. So how do you increase motivation, right? Like I say, motivation's like this little wave. It comes and goes. But how do we actually do things to increase it when it gets at a low point? And this is not going to be an answer that you like, but this is all I could really kind of come up with. And I know this works for me, is your actions of what you do when you're not motivated, right? Discipline, in my opinion, is how you get things done when motivation is not present. So discipline creates like a snowball effect of basically you're impressing yourself. I always say, impress yourself, like do something that you thought you couldn't do, something that you said that you didn't have the energy for, you didn't have the time for, you didn't know what to do, you didn't have the knowledge, but you just went ahead and you just did it anyway, right? And when you do that, you're like, oh wow, I can do things that that I doubt in my mind, right? And that motivates you, right? It's like, wow, yesterday was like the worst day ever, but I did everything I was supposed to do. You wake up the next day and you're like, okay, cool. It feels really good to do, right? You impressed yourself, right? And I think the best thing to do here is if you struggle with discipline, and this works with me on different things that I do, is set the bar super low, like small wins. My reading strategy, and I actually learned this from reading, the first book that I read of the year was Atomic Habits. And it talks about this, setting super low habits. And of course, with reading, it doesn't seem very hard. But to me, sometimes reading can be boring, right? Reading can be mundane. And obviously, not only that, sometimes your day can be filled with things that you'd rather be doing than reading. But my goal is to read a book every month for this year. And I'm on track to do so far because I learned from the first book that I read. If I set the bar super low, you can sort of compound from that and you'll end up doing more than what you thought, right? So if you set it so low that it seems ridiculously easy, that's awesome, right? Because you're going to actually end up following through with it. So with my reading, 1 page, that is all I require myself to read every single day, right? Now, if my goal is to read a book every month, I'm probably not going to achieve that unless the book is 30 pages long. I guess this is February, so 28 pages long. But the matter of the fact is, I'm not like, if I open the book, I'm not just going to read 1 page. It always ends up being 10 pages, 20 pages, sometimes longer, right? And I'll read on the treadmill, and just as long as I tell myself 1 page, it's all it takes. No matter how boring the chapter I'm in might be, I'll still read it. I'll still read 1 page. It's not that hard. It takes, less than 30 seconds to do. So set the bar low, right? That way you're creating the routine of doing the thing that you don't like. And once it becomes a habit that you do it every day, it becomes easier to get yourself to do it, right? Like repetition. It's like, even like in that book, Atomic Habits, it talks about people who set the strategy of going to the gym, and all they did was go to the gym. They put their shoes on, and that was it. They took their shoes off, and then they put them in the back in their bag, and then they went back home. And they continued to do that every single day until they got to the point where, okay, they're going in the gym, putting their shoes on, Now they're picking up weights. They're doing a few bicep curls. They walked on the treadmill for 5 minutes and then they're gone. Each time that they go there, they kept doing more and a little bit more and a little bit more to the point where they're doing a full workout. And now they're experiencing soreness, and they're going every day. But the point is, you need to make it easy for you to do, not overwhelming. So that way you can repetitively do it so many times that it's just a part of like who you are. That's what we're trying to get at. So we need to take action, right? And a lot of those actions that we do aren't going to, we can't require motivation, because if we want motivation, we have to prove that, we have to kind of impress ourselves. That's a strategy of increasing motivation, is just being impressed with your abilities and not letting doubt overtake you, right? And I think that's why a lot of people lose motivation, is they doubt themselves. But that's sort of what we're going to get into next, is why does my motivation go away when I am progressing and still working hard? Like, why is it that, I'm doing all the right things and it's all going well, and all of a sudden I wake up and I just don't feel like doing the things that I've been doing, even though I still kind of want the outcome? And what I was thinking about, going back to my reading strategy, is, and like I kind of said earlier, every good book has a boring chapter, right? So your journey to losing 30 pounds or gaining muscle or just getting in shape in general is going to have a chapter where it's boring. Every good book has a chapter that isn't that interesting, right? And I've experienced that already in the 2 books that I've been reading. I just got to continue to power through. I'm not really reading as many pages on those days during those chapters. But again, going back to what we said earlier, if you set the bar low, it makes it a little bit easier. But even when you're doing great, you're going to have days where you don't feel like it. Like, your dream job still has little things that you don't like, right, about what you do. I love making videos. I love filming at the gym. I love sort of thinking about, what I'm going to record and the brainstorming and some ideas. But I absolutely hate the editing part. Putting together the vision after all the work has been done is like the hard part. Not because I don't know what to do. It's almost like I just hate the mundane time frame that it takes up of my day, and like just the actual work part of it. But everything that you do, the point is like everything that you do is going to have boring parts that just aren't really that enticing. And I think that that's what happens when you lose motivation, is that, you've been going to the gym for a while. In the beginning of the journey, it's all very new and it's exciting and you're seeing progress. And eventually when it becomes the norm, that sort of that high from it all starts to go away, right? So going back to what I talked about earlier, when we increase motivation, we really have to focus on the repetition, right? And we have to focus on the discipline. So this is where discipline starts to play a role. And another thing that I really think ruins people's motivation is that you expect motivation after you, a lot of people, like a lot of my clients who begin the journey, they're highly motivated the first 3 weeks or even the first month. And they see the best results oftentimes in those weeks. And it's when things start to dive down and things become mundane and repetitive that they start to lose that drive. And I think it's because they expected the entire process to feel exactly like that. And that's sort of people's downfall, right? I never expect to be motivated. I think that's key, is your expectations, because I think that there's more value on motivation when you don't expect to feel like, happy about those things that some days you have to have discipline for, right? But like, there's some days I wake up and I'm like excited to, like, when my alarm goes off, I'm excited to get up at 5. I'm excited to go do my cardio. I'm excited to, walk to the coffee shop and put in the work for a few hours. And there are days where I'm not, right? So it's sort of a blessing in disguise on those days where you're excited to do it. And when you're aware of it, you're even more grateful for the way that you feel, right? Because I think a lot of people just expect that, that's how life should be and that's how they want life to be. And this is where I think sometimes that's where sort of depression starts to kick in, right? You're like, oh man, if life isn't like this every day, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this anymore. And I think life is, I was thinking about this last night going to bed, like life in general is a yin and yang type of thing. It's a black and white. It's good and bad, hot and cold, dark and light. It's night and day. Everything in life is, healthy, unhealthy. There's an opposing force to everything, right? And that's how motivation is going to be, right? Like there's just days where you don't want to do it and there's days where you do. That's sort of that yin and yang part of the entire journey that you're on. So that's what you should expect, But I think the best thing to do is expect that you're never going to be motivated, right? It's like, okay, I want this thing, but I don't want to do the work, but I know that I'm never going to want to do the work. So why don't we just do the work and I'll get there, and that's just kind of the way it goes. And you'll have, like on days where you do feel motivated, you just appreciate it so much more and you feel amazing. But yeah, anyway, the last one I want to talk about is why are some people more consistently motivated than I am? And I know a lot of my clients kind of feel that way about, maybe the way that I work out, people that they see on social media, or other clients of mine that are in our Facebook group. How are they more motivated than me and how do they stay consistent? I don't understand, right? I think the number one thing you got to realize about this whole situation is that they aren't. They only show you things on social media that they want to show you, which is probably the days that they're motivated. They don't really, you don't really realize that like the days they're not motivated, they don't post, right? That even happens with me, some days where I'm not necessarily having the best workout or I'm not necessarily as feeling good about the way my body looks, or maybe I'm feeling a little more insecure, I don't really post that day. So if you only see the good stuff, you think that I'm always motivated, right? So that's kind of the big problem, is that you have to realize that they aren't, And number two is, another reason is it's not motivation for a lot of people, it's an addiction. Like people forget that you can be addicted to exercise, and you can say that it's a bad thing all you want, but I don't believe so. Unless you're starving yourself on top of that. I think if you eat properly, you can exercise a lot. And depending on your intensity too, you can exercise a lot more than people think. Like I've seen people make fun of people for being at the gym too much or worrying about their next workout and just going on vacation and doing whatever they can to still work out. And I don't see how that is anything to be made fun of, but some people do have an addiction, and I think more people than you think have that to a slight degree even. Like it might not be a full-blown addiction, but there's still like an attachment to exercise, like I mentioned about myself, that I just don't think a lot of people have, right? I truly feel that within me, I need that exercise, and I really struggle. I'm at the gym every day. Like even the days that I'm taking a rest day, as I call it, or an off day, I'm still at the gym. I'm either walking on the treadmill, I'm stretching, I'm just doing little random things because I feel obligated to be there, or else I'm just going to be off. I'm just going to be off, or I'm afraid that I'm going to ruin the habit, or whatever it might be. That is just how I am, but I don't even care because it's what I want to do. And if people want to laugh and make fun, sure. Continue to, stay in the shape that you're in, and I'll be in the shape that I'm in, and we won't compare. But, for me, I have a connection to it that people don't really understand. So it's not that like I'm not motivated. It's just I have a different viewpoint and I feel differently about it overall. Right. So the third thing I want to touch on with this whole situation about people being more motivated is that don't compare. Like there's no reason to be comparing what you're doing and the way you feel towards other people, right? I wish I could play the guitar. I wish I liked music more or at least playing, I love music, but playing instruments, playing music, I wish I loved it more because, it kind of runs in our family to be a little bit more gifted with the ability to play music. And I did when I was younger, but as I got older, I just lost the interest. And, I've even tried to pick it back up again, and there's something that I just don't desire. And some people are like that with exercise, right? You're just not like someone else. So why are you comparing yourself? I don't compare myself to LeBron James. I don't compare myself to, John Mayer. I like different things, so I'm not going to be as good at certain hobbies or things as other people. And with that being said, if I want to be a musician, I'm going to struggle with doing what it takes to be a musician, right? If you want to be in shape, you're going to struggle with being in shape compared to the person who's, obsessed with exercise and loves all things fitness. They're listening to every podcast going. They watch YouTube videos every day. They're just obsessed. They have all the workout gear. They have the nicest gym clothes. Like, they're obsessed with it. And sometimes that's not you. You're a whole different person. Like, you have different things about you that make you you. And that's why you cannot compare, right? Because, exercise is just sometimes one of those things that is hard for you. But I say that, and I don't want you to just be like, oh, I'll just give up then. Because I know that's, I've heard people say, exercise is just hard for me. And if you don't think it's hard for the people who are obsessed with it, then you're fooling yourself, because it's still hard. It's still hard. People they just like it. They just like the hardness of it. They enjoy the challenge of it. And that's the thing, and it's like what I talked about on my social media the other day. I had a little quote where it's like, start looking for what's challenging versus what you feel is optimal, right? Because this whole movement with fitness is, let's try to find the easiest route. And I think that comes from people who don't truly like fitness for what it is. In my opinion, if you look at CrossFitters, and they get made fun of the most, they have the desire to make things as hard as possible. And in my opinion, that's what fitness is all about. Looking for the next challenge. Not about, how do I make my workout shorter but yet still the same results? How do I make my workouts easier but still get the same results? That's not what it's about to me. If you want it to be that way, sure, but that's not what it's about. That's kind of, and I kind of forget where I was going with this, to be honest with you. But that's the quote that I thought of the other day. So there you have it. I kind of forget where I was going with that. But anyways, the conclusion to all this, motivation on a conclusion, is number one, like we talked about, we got to find a meaningful reason to change. The most important thing you can think of for you personally, no matter what anybody says about it, it's for you. So find the deepest reason that's going to drive you towards there. And number two, the beginning of your journey is going to take discipline to get the ball rolling. So set the bar low. Start with small steps that you can do every day. And you got to take action and impress yourself. Do things that you didn't previously think that you could do, right? And track it. So the beginning takes discipline. Small bouts of action that you can be impressed by to start snowballing into your motivation that you're looking for, right? Create repetition. Number three, remind yourself that motivation is a gift and it's not earned. It's not a right that you just, I'm supposed to be motivated. So expectations are, motivation doesn't exist. I don't want to do the work, but I want what it gives me, so I still need to do it regardless. And then every time you feel motivated, it's a blessing. It feels even better, right? Just know that, all right, tomorrow I'm not going to be motivated, but I'm going to do it anyway. Motivation is a gift, right? Every chapter has a boring part. Every book has a boring chapter, right? But to get to the next part of the book, that's good. You need to read that boring chapter because it contains information that builds up to the next chapter that's really good. And it's not going to be as good if you don't go through the boring chapter, right? So the same thing happens with our motivation. Now, the last thing is obviously do not compare to those who are addicted to fitness or are more interested in it than you are. They have different goals. They're further along than you. They're maybe more advanced. They've got more years under their belt. Maybe they're a personal trainer. Maybe it's their career. Maybe. There's a lot of different reasons. So do not compare. You're on your journey. You're working out 3 times a week because that's what your schedule can allow you to handle. The other person who's working out 6 days a week is doing it because they've got more free time maybe. Maybe they are an athlete of some kind. Maybe they're stay in your lane. Don't ruin your own motivation because you're not as good as Sally Sue. All right? So that is my take on motivation today. And for those of you watching on YouTube, hopefully you enjoyed the workout today. And I'm sorry that workout was kind of lame. I'm going to be honest. My workout today was terrible. And it probably looks like I didn't put that much effort in. I didn't even film the end of it where I did calves. I'm like, nobody wants to see me do calves. And I almost didn't even film the workout today because I was afraid that I'm going to look like a wimp in this workout. But I was like, you know what? I think sometimes that's what people need to see, And I feel like if I didn't film it either, I might have just skipped out on some sets or ended the workout early or whatever it might be. So, I appreciate you guys for watching. And just, if you want to look at the actual, the full workout sets and the reps, you can see that in the description of the podcast. But thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I hope that puts motivation in perspective for you. And hopefully you can set your expectations where they need to be set with motivation. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next Friday morning. Stay blessed this week. Peace.